So let's go over a few things. So I got to understand your migraines more because you kind of have it listed here, but I don't really understand them too much.
Mm-hmm.
So you do have prodromal symptoms or not?
Yes, sometimes, but I would say that it's chronic. So it's not like those visual disturbances ever go away. They're always there. They just intensify. So I see more light flashing when I have a prodrome-faced migraines.
Okay. So let's break this down then. So you have visual disturbances, and sometimes they're light flashing. And if you have light flashing, you always have a migraine. Like, so explain to me like the worst part of a migraine. Like
The worst
the
part
worst
of a
migraine you've had. What are your symptoms?
Nausea.
Nausea.
And trouble walking and
Trouble walking. So let's talk about trouble walking.
Yeah.
Is your trouble walking difficulty with balance?
Balance. Yes.
Or is it's not difficult with initiating your limb to move?
No, more issue with balance.
Okay. So
more clumsiness.
Okay. So this is basilar arteries migraine, because the basilar artery supplies all the cerebellar arteries.
Yeah, and I told you my face weakness looks a bit more pronounced. So.
Okay. So it sounds like you get a basilar artery migraine. Okay. So you get balance issues, you get nausea. Do you get any slurred speech? Okay. Sound sensitivity, light sensitivity?
Yeah.
Okay.
And yeah. So those were symptoms I had after the drugs: is tinnitus, sound sensitivity, light sensitivity.
Okay. So these are all associated with basilar artery migraine. Okay. And when you you said that you had upbeat nystagmus, was that during a migraine?
No, that day I got the testing done, I didn't have a migraine. So he said that these are all just probably central vestibular migraine in origin. But that day I wasn't having any migraine symptoms.
Okay.
Yeah. So what's hard to differentiate is it's not like these symptoms ever totally go away, right? So I'm always in a state.
Yeah. So that's the basilar artery. And the basilar artery branches into the blood flow to the cerebellum. So if you get a migraine that causes spasm there, then you get only cerebellar symptoms.
Got you.
So if you have upbeat nystagmus, the question is, did you actually have lesion or injury? Because your MRI was normal. Do you have actual lesion or injury to your brain? It's like this area underneath is the subtentorial space. So the cerebellum, the pons. Did you actually have injury there? Do you actually have injury now? Or is it just a vascular phenomenon you had at the time of the upbeat nystagmus? The best scenario would be the vascular phenomenon.
Of course, but I wouldn't say that that's not.
I'm not sure.
That wouldn't be. I wouldn't agree with that just because of the continuous of the symptoms.
Okay. So let's go through. Let's try to pinpoint a few things. All right. So, how often would you have? Let's just call this a migraine, just for sake of term. Okay?
Yeah.
How often do you have this pattern where you can't walk and get slurred speech and
3 to 4 times a week.
3 to 4 times a week. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, 3 to 4 times a week. And how long does it last?
Usually, where it's peaking, only a few hours. That's not. And
what does a few hours mean?
Few hours, like a few hours where I feel like I have to lay down and I feel like I have trouble, speaking or like word finding difficulties and whatnot, and I just want to lay down because I feel nauseous. And then after that passes, it almost feels like a hangover type of thing.
Sure.
Yeah. And that's
okay, so how about when the symptoms are most acute? How long can an acute episode last? We have to lay down.
Few hours. That's it.
Like 3 hours, 5
3
hours?
hours. 2 to 3 hours, I would say.
2 to 3 hours. Okay.
2 to 3 hours.
Okay, so 2 to 3 hours, and then you feel like hungover the rest of the day.
And the other symptom I get is eye pain behind the right eye. And that right eye gets quite bloodshot. I don't know if that's
just the right?
Mm-hmm.
That's during the migraine?
Mm-hmm.
It's never the left?
No.
Okay.
No. And I did notice it's very, very, very slight, but just a little bit of lid ptosis on the right side comparative to the left. Compared to how I was previous, and I would only note that because I had orthodontic photos, and I was like, well, that's definitely changed.
Okay, and then right lid ptosis.
Very mild.
That's the ophthalmic artery. So basilar artery, and this branches the cerebellum, ophthalmic artery. Any other symptoms during
the other symptom I got after I came home a few months later was floaters in the eye. Floaters and like after images were in the sense like if you look at a tree and then I'd see like a dark after image of a tree when I look away. And my neurologist put all that into migraine. Although when I saw the eye doctor, he did actually see some like floaters in the eye.
Yeah. Okay. So but let's stick with this for a sec.
Okay.
So during the acute migraine, anything else besides the ptosis on the right, the bloodshot eye, dizziness, slurred speech, balance issues?
No.
Does this pattern ever change?
Yes.
What are some other changes that could take place?
So sometimes it's like I'm more dizzy than other times. Sometimes it's more of a...
But it's always dizziness.
Always dizziness. And another trigger for me that's really big is scent. Any type of scent. Any type of like those scent dispensers and whatnot. Like those trigger neurological symptoms right away.
Okay.
Almost immediately.
Okay, so let's go into triggers for a second here.
Okay.
But during the presentation of migraine, this is pretty much it. Because you could have more dizziness or more nausea.
Yeah, more visual symptoms, less visual symptoms. Yes.
But this is the classic.
Yeah, that's pretty much like the symptoms. Or sometimes I'll wake up with the eye pain, So it's like I wake up with the migraine.
When you say you have eye pain, do you always have the bloodshot eyes with it?
Yes.
Okay, so it's vascular.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So that is pretty interesting because everything like spans them in two different areas. Your ophthalmic artery and your basilar artery. Okay. Now, let's go over triggers because that's the key part of this. Mm-hmm. So you said scents can trigger you?
Yeah, and another thing I noticed was scents, or the artificial chemicals, or the chemicals in scents, whatever it's making it up, is like an irritability. I'll start to get irritable. That's the only like psychological symptom that I really notice is like an irritability. But I'm not typically like that. Typically more calm. So I start to feel irritable, and then I can trigger a headache, like headache migraine, like pain in my head almost immediately, and yeah. Dizziness.
Okay, so like it starts with irritability, then pain in your head, and then
dizziness. Yes.
The dizziness and the basilar artery symptoms, and the ophthalmic. Okay. So besides scent, anything else?
No.
There's motion.
Weather changes, of course.
Weather changes.
Weather changes are huge.
Like rapid weather changes, or what do you mean by
yeah,
weather
like
changes?
rapid weather pressure changes.
Okay.
So if a system's coming through, like even like a storm system or something like that, that would trigger it.
Okay.
Smoke. We had some fires. Smoke can do that.
What about a smoky room or something?
Yeah.
So smoke. Yeah. Kind of smoke.
Smoke. I wouldn't know because I've never been around that, but I did notice when we were having fires and you can't escape that smoke. That was definitely triggering my symptoms a lot more.
Okay, so smoke, weather changes with pressure, rapid pressure changes from the weather, and scents. Yeah.
Yeah. Or like paint fumes, like anything that's
strong scents.
So,
could I trigger migraine with you with the strong scent right now? I'm not wanting to, but I'm saying it's possible.
It's possible. Yeah, like the Glade plug-in type stuff. Yeah.
That would do it.
Oh yeah, probably.
Okay.
You hotbox through with that, yeah.
Anything else? There's no connections between your drops and blood sugar when you shake your lightheaded and irritable?
Mm-mm. I don't notice I don't notice personally I have huge drops in my blood sugar, but it's possible
you
I do.
definitely have symptoms of it.
Yeah.
On your questionnaire forms. Okay. What about motion and movement in crowded environments? Is that a trigger for you?
It used to be when I came home from like when the symptoms first started, but I've become more acclimatized to that, so I can handle that better. But still loud, noisy, bright environments. So, another trigger. Sunlight. Like on a bright day, like the glare.
Okay. So bright sun, sense. So most of these are neurological. You're activating as olfactory receptor, olfactory visual receptor, right? Smoke is different. Okay. Is there anything you can do to help not trigger the migraine? Have you tried taking anti-migraine medication or tried anything that works for you?
The only thing I tried was beta blockers, propanol, I think it was called.
Yeah.
I didn't really notice much. CoQ10 has been honestly the best that I found. That is not causing any side effects. I did try gabapentin for a bit for the nerve damage in my face, and that was awful.
Yeah.
I won't take that drug again.
Okay, hold on. We'll get to nerve damage in a second. Okay, so you just tried the beta blocker. Mm-hmm. That's it. Mm-hmm. Anything nutraceutical works for you?
Just CoQ10.
What does CoQ10 do?
I notice it like blunts down the intensity.
Have you tried any other mitochondrial support besides CoQ10?
PQQ is the...
Did you try that?
Yeah, so I use the combination by pure encapsulation. That's CoQ10 with PQQ.
Okay. That's what you use?
Yeah.
Anything else besides those two?
No. I take the glutathione.
Have you tried like D-ribose or something like that?
No. No,
okay.
I was doing riboflavin at a high amount for a bit, but I didn't really actually notice that was as effective as CoQ10.
So one of the things we have to do is push this pathway more.
Yes.
And see, like, if one thing for your mitochondria is working, dampen your symptoms, we can do more aggressive things for your mitochondria.
Yes.
The immediate most impactful thing to do would be D-ribose.
Okay.
Have you ever taken that before?
Mm-mm.
D-ribose is a quick, simple sugar, goes right into the mitochondria for fuel.
Okay.
People do it for workouts all the time.
I should probably work out more.
But it's just like you might have increased mitochondrial demands immediately when this is being triggered to prevent it.
Okay.
So, because what's probably happening with these is these inputs are exceeding your neuron's metabolic rate. And when you exceed neuron's metabolic rate, you get an autonomic change. And your autonomic change leads into migraine.
Right.
So one of the strategies, we're going to start making a plan and strategies. So there's going to be some trial and error with this. Like, you're going to have to just buy some stuff. Of
course.
It may work, it may not work.
I know the supplement game. I know how this works.
So we'll have to do some trial and error towards the mitochondrial pathway.
Okay.
When you get about to have a migraine.
Yeah, and the other thing I forgot to mention, lack of sleep.
Yeah.
So if I don't get sleep one night, I'm destroyed the next day. I can't function.
And you're likely to have a migraine?
Yeah, migraine, and also like memory problems and like doing stupid things like putting my keys in my fridge, like just dumb things.
Okay. So besides PQQ and CoQ10, how much do you take, by the way?
I don't know the dosage on that. Just one.
Just one?
Just one.
You tried two?
Yeah. No, I should though. Yeah, I should try to.
Okay, so this is the thought process. So like you're a nutritionist, you have a background, all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things clinically like that is very important to do
is
when you get a little signal of something helping or something making worse, you want to like explore that. Okay. So you have a signal right now, which is very unique to you.
Mm-hmm.
That if you take a substance that immediately optimizes mitochondrial function, you can dampen it. But you have only done one, so maybe more could have a better effect.
Yeah, for sure.
And other pathways into the mitochondria
can
have a different effect. I'll make a list of the most likely things, at least likely things to try when I'll organize like a treatment plan.
Okay.
The very first one is definitely going to be D-ribose.
Okay.
Okay. And then, sometimes you can completely change a condition with the right applications, and sometimes you just can improve quality of life.
Totally.
So we have to see what happens. Okay.
Yeah.
But even
I notice sometimes the supplements too, they work for a while, and then they almost start to like lose their effect.
Yeah, that happens too.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's see what's there. D-ribose. Now, ultimately, this just means like your neurons don't have good metabolic capacity.
They don't have good energy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how it feels.
So anything that kind of exceeds their metabolic rate,
mm-hmm.
just like if you could metabolic rate, you could have running. Like you could only run a mile and then you're done.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing with neurons. So there can only be so much input they can handle. And then, and if the scent is mild, that doesn't exceed your metabolic rate,
mm-hmm.
maybe unless it's for a strong, long period of time. But if the scent's really aggressive, it just...
Is that common for people with neurological problems?
It's common for people with head injuries.
Interesting. Okay.
Or injury to neurons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's like it's really offensive scent now, and I never used to be a problem at all. Okay. I never used to get any symptoms.
Okay, so your triggers are basically strong scents, pain, light weather changes that cause pressure changes, smoke, bright sun, lack of sleep, right? And
mm-hmm.
the only thing that can help you is the CoQ10 PQQ combo.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else with the migraines?
No, I take glutathione as well, but that was for more immune system function.
Does it help you? Do you take it right before your migraines?
You know what I started taking it in April after COVID because I wasn't recovering from COVID.
Okay.
And it like all of a sudden, boom! I stopped coughing. Right, my lungs. Well, the inflammation dissipated. So now I've just been taking glutathione consistently because I think it's beneficial. Okay.
But do you take it before you get a migraine?
No, I haven't been necessarily using for that. I just take it every morning as like an immune system helper.
Okay.
Inflammation quencher. That's actually what was recommended to me by the dermatologist for the scalp rosacea. He's like, I've never seen this. So I'm like, yeah, well, welcome to me.
Okay. All right. Now you put down like your number one complaint, chronic neurological symptoms specific to vestibular and autonomic dysfunction. Does that encapsulate the migraine, or is there other things too?
That encapsulates migraines, yeah.
That's all of it.
Yeah.
So this I could just kind of change this to migraine.
Yeah, and the autonomic dysfunction too. That's part of the sleep apnea thing that I'm dealing with as well. Since there was
some changes there.
Yeah.
But that could be secondary to your brain.
They could, yes. And I noticed the clenching increased after the brain injury, so that's when I killed some teeth.
So let's clearly define the brain injury. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And you refer to the brain injury as like
toxicity.
When the antibiotic period.
Yes.
That's
actually, it wasn't even the IV antibiotics I was getting. It was a packet I bought from the hospital.
Let's go through that.
Yeah.
Clearly, just because I read it, but it's when we go over it, it'll be much more clear. Okay?
Yes.
So prior to this event,
mm-hmm.
which you were sick in Mexico, is that what it was, or South
I
America?
was in. So I got diagnosed in Calgary with this infection, and I had to go to Peru to work.
And then you went to Peru.
That's
and then
correct.
they gave you some protective, just take this.
Oh, they said it should be fine. It looks clear enough. You should be fine. And now I know should.
Okay. So what year was the bacterial infection?
That was 2017.
So 2006. So approximately 5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So prior to this bacterial infection 5 years ago, this initial one you had,
mm-hmm.
did you have any neurological symptoms?
Yes, but I didn't know they were neurological symptoms.
What did you have?
The Addis people.
So you had that before?
Yes.
What year was that?
2013.
Okay. All right.
And the TMD, which I think now is probably more atypical facial pain.
Okay.
And muscle.
Okay.
And I didn't know...
They happened at the exact same time?
Yeah.
They did?
Yeah. And I didn't know what migraines were, but now looking back to it, yeah, I probably was getting migraines. I just thought tired.
But not based on
headaches.
migraines, right? Just headache migraines.
Exactly.
Okay. Just
exactly.
Headache.
Yeah, and visual, my vision would go a little blurry. I just thought I was tired or something.
Yeah. So the thing is with your vision, because you brought up visual disturbance every time, with the with Addis pupil, your pupillary constricting muscles become injured.
Yeah.
So that's going to cause some visual disturbances in that sense.
Mm.
Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
You'll have a hard time focusing. Reading.
Yeah, and that's transient. So then I'd revert back to baseline, right?
Yep. And your brain gets more fatigued, it gets worse. Your brain gets less fatigued, it gets better.
Exactly.
Okay, so you've had the visual disturbances, really the Addis pupil,
mm-hmm.
which is the ciliary ganglion injury.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
During this time, before you developed this Addis pupil, 2013, did you have any episodes of an infection?
No infection.
Okay. Any signs of autoimmunity of any kind that you're aware of with your knowledge?
The only thing I had was cold hands, cold feet, and low blood pressure. And so everybody thought it was low thyroid, but there was never any evidence to support that.
Right. Okay.
But no, I was pretty busy girl. I didn't.
So with the Addis people, like I was saying, there's some kind of viral, bacterial, or autoimmune injury to those autonomic fibers.
Yeah.
So something was initially started in 2013. And it's not benign because
mm-hmm.
there's actual damage to tissue.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And then everything was okay until 2017.
Yeah.
Except that you have some occasional headaches.
Yeah, and the TMD symptoms, which, yeah.
Okay.
There was some wear on the joints, some deterioration, but that's it.
Just from clenching?
I think so. They thought I had idiopathic condylar absorption, but I dispute that.
Sure.
Hindsight.
Good. Okay. What was the infection you got in 2017? I know you wrote it down, I just can't remember.
It was a nasal infection from a septal ring. It was really dumb.
Yeah,
it was dumb. It was I just wanted to be cool and get a septal piercing, and then I got infected. And I was going back and forth from Peru, so I bet it was jungle infection.
Okay, so then you went to Peru, you got more sick.
Yeah, I was cleared to go.
Yeah.
They said I should be okay, so I flew back, and literally on the flight, it started swelling, and I was like, no, no. And so I arrived in Peru, and luckily I met a doctor when I arrived, and he said, just get on amoxicillin.
Like he gave you some to start with.
He gave me some to start with, but it was expired. He's like, just go to the pharmacy. Like, this is a doctor from Canada, and he's like, just go to the pharmacy, buy whatever. And I was
Assuming
like, oh, okay.
It's like Canada.
Exactly. And it's not like Canada. So I went to the pharmacy and I tried amoxicillin, 10-day dose, and then I was told to go on clindamycin again. So I went on clindamycin for 10 days. No dice. So then I finally broke down and went to a clinic there, and they started me on an IV that day because he was worried that it was spreading, and my concern was it'll get to my brain.
Yeah.
Because this is a danger zone. You don't want to mess around with this area.
It's very real.
It is very real.
Very nasal infections can go right into the brain. Yeah.
Exactly, and I was aware of that, and I was thinking my concern, I was like, just take care of that. So I wasn't really thinking about counterfeit antibiotics. And so I did an IV of vancomycin, clindamycin, and dexamethasone. They made quite a high dose for my tiny little petite frame.
Yeah.
And I was on that for 10 days, and then it was like my last days. And I had a packet of clindamycin, and I ran out of the liquid to inject. I was like, I'll just take it from the packet.
Okay.
As soon as I took it from the packet that night, I took the dose, I started to feel dizzy and disoriented, and I woke up a few hours later, like super anxious, like a physiological anxiety, a physiological sense of fight or flight, and I couldn't see straight. And all of a sudden my balance was off, and I was like, something went awry.
Okay.
And I flew home that day, or the next day.
And that's what you're referring to as the injury.
Correct. And like an idiot, I continued to take the packet all the way home because I'm still not cluing in that the drugs are counterfeit. And so I take the packet all the way home. I go to the hospital literally as soon as I get off the plane, tell them what happened. I'm more concerned about the infection, really, at that point.
Is the infection getting better?
It was still there. So when I went to the hospital and they scoped me, I still had evidence of cellulitis in the nose. So they said, you should...
This is in Canada.
Mm-hmm. And so they said, okay, get off the drugs, like get off the antibiotics. It should clear now on its own. And so I'd stopped taking antibiotics. And 2 days after that, tinnitus, sound sensitivity, light sensitivity, like everything, shit hit the fan, so to speak.
All the symptoms of your migraine.
All the symptoms of migraine, but
your specific one, this they call basilar.
Yes, but it felt like toxic. It felt like a toxicity. It felt like I had brain damage. That's what it felt like to me, like I got hit in the head or something like that.
Okay. So you feel like there's a possibility that the antibiotics you took had chemicals in there.
100%.
And that's what really
100%.
threw you over the edge.
Yes. Okay. And everybody from that area is like, you did what? You bought things at where? Like, no. You should have went to Lima. What are you doing?
Okay. It's more like a chemical toxic injury.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay.
And because I went to the hospital after that, they did a CT with contrast. Of course, they didn't see anything.
Yeah.
But they wanted to clear an aneurysm.
Good,
yes. And then because of the tinnitus and whatnot, that's when they referred me to ENT. And the whole story was, you have ototoxicity for sure. And this is what you're dealing with. But when the autogram came back, like, fine. I was questioning that hypothesis.
You probably don't.
I don't.
Especially if it was, like, not even real antibiotics initially. Oh, well, we actually went on IV with real dose.
It was real antibiotics. It was like, it's just whatever. I bought this like no-name pack from the hospital.
That's right.
And it didn't even have a box, okay? So what did I get? It said clindamycin in Spanish, I think.
So we can figure that out today really quickly. Because, with ototoxicity, you get peripheral vestibular damage. And peripheral vestibular damage, basically, it's very clear. You put someone that they can't visually fixate on target, like in darkness, and CPC nystagmus.
Yeah.
And if you do that, then it's like peripheral vestibulopathy.
No, I don't
but if you had upbeat nystagmus, then that's definitely not ototoxicity. That's like brain injury.
Only when gaze is suppressed. So only if I have gaze fixation, that can be all stabilized apparently.
Yeah.
And the only thing he noted too was when he did VHIT, like video, I forget what it's called.
Yeah, we'll do that.
Head impulse test, I think it is.
Yeah, we're gonna do that.
Yeah. He did note some deficits on the right.
We'll do everything in.
Yeah.
We'll check everything. And those things change over time too, as your brain adapts or gets injured more, or different things happen. Okay.
That was in February.
So we're referring to the injury on this date, 2017.
Yeah. And the testing was February 2023. So.
The vestibular testing.
Yes. And I went to the neurovestibular clinic, and they basically all they did was the what's it called? The C-vamps and the O-vamps.
Okay. So let's clarify a few things. Because you have a chemical injury, the symptoms you have a chemical injury are very, very, very specific to basal artery migraine, which would mean like toxic insult's going to damage neurons, and a migraine is just going to be like a vasomotor dysfunction.
Right.
So they're different.
Right.
And it's different than autoimmunity, as we kind of look at this. For sure, you have a basal artery migraine. Like, that is as clear as anything could be.
Right. Yeah. No denying
No
that.
denying that.
No.
Especially if it's there for 3 hours and then goes away.
Yep.
Okay, that cannot be nerve injury. That's only vascular.
For sure.
So.
And I think that was pre-existing, and it got worse from that event.
Okay, maybe. For sure, it's possible. Okay, but when you say chemical toxic injury, we got to really make sure we're not misdiagnosing injury as progression of a migraine.
Right.
They're two different things.
Right.
Okay. The symptoms you have, like under this timeline, chemical toxic injury, is the exact symptoms of basal artery migraine, right? Like you would have symptoms for 2 or 3 hours or several hours.
Except, I mean, tinnitus is constant.
Okay.
Never went away.
That.
Sound sensitivity for the first year, I had extreme hyperacusis. All the time.
Okay.
All the time.
Okay.
Yeah. And balance issues all the time. So that's not. It did just get worse when I have a migraine, but they're not. They don't go back. I've never reverted back to my pre-state before I took those drugs ever. My vision blurred, has never ever recovered back to the acuity I had. Right. So those don't go back to any baseline. Right.
Because if you look at the timeline, just trying to like figure out as we draw everything out and kind of look at the big picture. 2013 had AIDS people, which is the autonomic injury. You could have had a flare-up of your autonomic injury. That is really the central part of all this, because the autonomic injury is going to lead to migraines.
Right.
But it may not necessarily be cerebellar tissue injury.
Might be both.
Well, it could be vascular compromise to it.
Right.
Which is why but your MRA is normal and your MRI was normal. So your arteries and your neurons don't have any actual
there was no
tissue distortion.
No, there was no physical lesions.
No physical lesions, right? Doesn't mean it isn't one, because you can have injury.
That's what my neurologist said. He's like, doesn't see everything under the sun.
This doesn't, but it does tell us some things, right? Okay. Any other changes with your bladder, like tone or any other autonomic functions?
Bladder tone, no. I haven't noticed any changes. The only thing I noticed when I came home from Peru is the lack of circulation to the feet. So I wasn't noticing that before. I wasn't getting like a...
It's more autonomic again.
Yeah, that definitely... So
more like blood flow circulation to your feet.
Yeah, like I had cold feet, cold hands, cold nose.
And they would change in color too? They
wouldn't change in color before. And when I got home from Peru, after all this happened, I did start to notice that. Or I'd go for a walk and I'd come home and my feet would be like bright red, like just some weird circulation problems. Or if I get out of the bath, they'd turn blue, like bluish purple.
Okay. That's happening still? Like daily? Okay. Right. Okay. So, if you have these migraines 3 to 4 days a week, you have 3 to 4 good days a week?
On a good week.
On a good week. Okay. So, tell me what's a good day? How are you functioning? No symptoms?
Well, there's always symptoms, but a good day is like it's tolerable. It's like it's not interfering with my life.
So your activities of daily living are normal?
Yeah, my activities are more normal.
But what do you still have underneath in the background?
So in the background, I'm talking. This is a separate issue, but the nerve pain in the face from the injury that's consistent.
Point out the nerve pain for me.
So here, it's in the gums where the surgery took place, the front central incisors, the front teeth.
Chopped out everything.
Yeah, he chopped out everything. And this, especially on the right side, this area right here. But both sides have a slight bit of pain, just more
nerve
here.
Pain in the face.
Yeah.
Post-surgery, right?
Correct.
And central. But it's never on one side of your face or the other.
I would say it's more prominent on the right, but that's where the nerve, motor function was quantified to be, too.
Okay. So you have that every day?
Every day.
On a scale of 1 to 10, where does it go?
I would say, it can go as low as a 3, where it's not perceptible, and then it can go up to a 10, and when it goes up to a 10 it feels more central. It feels like I get like it feels over time, about 8 months into this, the pain got deeper and deeper into the face, and now I feel it like my body will start to shake, from the pain after a while.
So is that a 10?
10 for sure.
But it lingers around what? Mostly around 3?
3 to 5, yeah, during the day.
So you might have like central pain plasticity develops.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it's really hard to treat.
Yeah, an oral facial pain specialist I saw said that's the problem, is once it goes chronic.
It's central pain plasticity.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you have underlying autonomic issues, like people that get chronic pain syndromes, they get underlying autonomic issues, then they get injury to the tissue, and then they're in like the central pain pattern. So that's...
And what's funny is I have a low-level laser, and I use that on... I used to use it like locally to where the pain was, and it wasn't making much of a difference. I started using it on my spine, and then I noticed it brought down the pain. It would bring down that central sensitized, like that feeling. So I was like, okay, that's how I'll treat it now.
Yeah, you can experiment. That works for you, because it's not there's actually probably no longer any injury at all there.
No, it's just
your area of your brain that perceives pain is firing.
Yes, it's very annoying.
It's like a central pain.
Yes.
Plasticity. Okay. So yeah, anything that works for you.
Yeah, I've done the app curable, like, it's just psychological. You just have to tell yourself it's not there. That doesn't work either, because it's like, no, there's like a physiological point.
No, in functional MRI, like that area of your brain will be lit up.
Exactly. So
it's firing. It's just there's no injury causing it.
Yes, but the more I try it, you can't just convince yourself out of the physiological reaction. You can say, I'm not in any danger, just relax, and you can do that. But it doesn't. To me, it hasn't stopped it. Yeah.
If your brain mitochondria gets better, it might.
That's what I notice helps.
You do notice that?
Yes.
Because that's what the research is.
Yes, the mitochondrial substance, yes.
What do you notice?
I notice that it's same with the migraines. It takes off that edge. If I take the CoQ10, it takes off that edge.
Yeah, we need to push your mitochondria.
Yes.
Okay. Doing lots of trial and error there. Okay. So that could be your way out of this, to improve your quality of life. It's really hard to predict that you're going to be, completely reverse central pain plastic pattern.
No.
Okay. So every day, the background noise, you have this ongoing chronic pain.
Yeah.
From where your surgery was.
Yeah.
Okay. What else?
Fatigued.
Okay. Physical fatigue, mental fatigue, both?
Physical fatigue.
Physical. Mine's good. It's just your body's tired.
Yeah. Well, I guess maybe it's physical and mental.
Physical first, then mental?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. Is there anything that fatigues you during the day?
Just if I get lack of sleep at night or something like that.
That's it.
Which is, and it's hard to predict. I can go to sleep, but if I'm having more problems breathing, I'm clearly not sleeping well.
Right, with the sleep apnea.
Mm-hmm.
Did you use a CPAP machine?
No, I was told because it was mild sleep apnea that we don't have to. We don't necessarily have to go there yet.
Oh, you need to go there.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, let's put that on the list.
I was planning.
Let me just put in perspective for you.
Yes.
You have completely cleared mitochondrial dysfunction.
And I'm not getting oxygen.
Chronic. Yeah, you're not getting oxygen.
Yeah, that's terrible.
Like,
that's totally killing me. Yeah.
Okay.
And have you seen the altitude where I live? There is no oxygen.
Okay, so go get a sleep apnea. So get a CPAP. You think you'll be able to wear it without the pain, or? So
the problem is the weakness, right? So he removed all the muscles in this area. So the soft tissue is weak, right? It's droopy. It doesn't have the same function. So with a nasal cannula, it's going to be impossible to close my mouth at night. That's what I'll have to use. Yeah, we have to give that a try. Yeah.
So you might get used to it, but listen, this could be like one of the big
game changers for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree. And actually, that was the frenectomies. I was heading towards double jaw surgery. So I was in braces and everything, and I had a year of orthodontics behind me to do jaw surgery again. And that obviously can't work now.
Okay. So so far on the clinical treatment strategy we're trying to develop here. You're going to definitely push the mitochondrial pathway with more things.
Yes, and get a CPAP.
Ribose, getting a CPAP. There's going to be critical for your maybe even onset of migraines.
Yes.
Because your onset of migraines are all mostly a sensory pathway exceeding its metabolic rate, and then autonomic dysfunction comes in because the brain's fatigued. Mm-hmm. Then you get your very clear basilar migraine, ophthalmic artery migraine. Okay.
Yeah, and it makes sense why I get less migraines at sea level, where I'm getting more oxygen. Yeah.
So we got to get that updated blood test because you had some borderline anemia in 2022.
Now I'm gonna have to get another sleep test too. They won't give me a PAP machine.
Get another, like you gotta go down this tunnel.
Yes, I know.
That deep. You gotta get oxygen to your brain.
God, those machines are terrifying, but it's okay. Suck it up. Just do it.
You gotta get done. Yeah. Okay. So, on a good day, you have the pain, you have fatigue, physical fatigue, then mental fatigue. Sleep makes a big impact on that. Anything help with that?
More sleep? More sleep, or sometimes time. Sometimes I'll have like just a window where I feel like that, right? In the afternoon, just get like a dip like that. And then by the evening, I'm alert again and I feel better. So sometimes you just have to wait it out.
Okay. Anything else on a good day besides the pain and the fatigue? So that's your everyday good day is just like you can still do active daily living, but you always have some pain, physical fatigue, then mental fatigue, right? And then and then the bad days, 3 to 4 days is when you have these like busyness and balance issues, and slurred speech,
and the pain increases, and
Okay. All right, that makes a lot of sense now. It's hard to like translate that, even in writing form. Like if I had to write that out, I would have a really hard time with that.
This is a mess. I'm like a mess.
No, this is there's definitely a path here. There's definitely a path here. I just gotta figure out the way to make it. Okay, so that was your number one complaint, was chronic neurological symptoms related to vestibular autonomic dysfunction. So we covered everything at that point.
Yes.
Look at that. Okay. Then you put down second chief complaint, overactive immune function, which I wasn't really clear what you meant by that.
Yeah, that would be like the rosacea symptoms. So when I went to the dermatologist, he did see evidence of vascularization on the scalp, which would indicate scalp rosacea, or he said red scalp syndrome it's called too. But he said it's incredibly rare. Like there's only a few cases even in the literature. But what they know about rosacea now is that it's an overactivation of the innate immune system. And he said especially with my type, which is more neurogenic, seems like inflammation.
Okay. And
so
you have the phospholipid antibodies.
Yeah, I wasn't scared to get COVID because I knew my body could definitely mount a response. I was more cautious to get the vaccine because.
So that's the overactive immune system is just the rosacea.
Rosacea and scalp symptoms. So that's the hair loss and inflammation on the scalp.
Yep.
So what's weird is he did agree with the androgenetic alopecia diagnosis, like genetic hair loss, but I have no one in my family, my aunts, my grandparents, my great-grand, like no one has any hair loss. So it just seems really weird that all of a sudden.
That might not be accurate.
Yeah.
Trigeminal pain and motor dysfunction.
Yes. So
that's not ongoing? Or is
that's ongoing. So
it's on your daily list.
It's on my daily list.
Put that on there.
So that's the facial pain, the trigeminal pain.
Oh, I thought it was just.
Yeah, that's the trigeminal nerve. It's a V2. And so what I've gotten a few different diagnoses for that. One is called post-traumatic trigeminal neuropathy, or another orofacial pain specialist said it's atypical trigeminal neuralgia from the surgery.
I think it's central pains.
Yeah, it happened right after the surgery, right? So directly after the frenectomy, which was really a partial rhinoplasty because he took out the depressor muscles.
Yeah, like if you look at the V1 distribution, it's like the Trojan helmet.
Yeah.
But that might not just be.
It's more in the what's it called here? The infraorbital nerve, right? Because he would have hit the nasal palatine or around the nasal palatine nerve. Yeah, so
that's V1, but this is V2.
Yeah, V2.
Not V1 at all?
No, I would say it's more V2.
And it's bilateral?
Yeah, more on the right. Way more on the right.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it is bilateral.
It is it started out bilateral too, so and it kind of moved more on the right.
I don't think it's trigeminal neuralgia.
So it's just post-traumatic trigeminal neuropathy, which is just like
that's the nerve that gets carried information from your face, but like with so the difference would be like with trigeminal pain, the trigeminal nerve itself is injured.
Yeah, no, the trunk's not injured.
Okay,
no,
right.
This is total local,
so
and it's kind of like the facial nerve, right? So the facial nerve wasn't injured.
Okay, well, so that's a different nerve. That's a totally different nerve. We'll just talk about trigeminal pain. Okay, so trigeminal pain would be this injury to the trigeminalgia, trigeminal nerve pain. There's injury to the trigeminal nerve itself.
Right, like the trunk.
like a virus infection or something.
Right. No.
But if you have injury to tissue and the information is carried to the trigeminal nerve, that's not trigeminal neuralgia pain. And it very rarely is it ever bilateral. It's on one side. It's just post-surgery.
Post-surgery. So yeah, the post-surgery thing is the post-traumatic trigeminal neuropathy.
Post-surgery central pain.
And it started out very minor, right? It started out just like tingling and burning in the nasal mucosa and around the surgical area and pain in the teeth. But then it as it progressed, it got deeper into the face, so more into the sinus area, and more of a deep throbbing rather than just like a tingling.
I mean, there's like central plasticity in those sensory pathways.
Yeah, and what about like, do you think like inflammatory peptides like substance P and stuff like that would play a role?
Yeah, all central pain has.
All central pain has those components.
But it's just the brain is activating descending fibers.
Right.
That cause tissue there. Yeah.
Right, and probably because I was already sensitized to begin with, and it was like, oh, look at that.
Okay, so that's the post-surgery. Okay, so the trigeminal pain. Okay. The motor dysfunction. So what happened was, because you removed the depressor is innervated by the facial nerve from the bottom. So surgeons know if they cut the depressor, like in a rhinoplasty, they cut it from the belly of the muscle. They don't remove it from the periosteum, because that's where it's innervated. Okay. So what happened was branches of the trigeminal nerve, or branches of the facial nerve, were severed, as per evidence on the nerve conduction test, because they just did through the nasalis. Oh, wow.
So after the surgery, my nose collapsed. So like the nasal valves collapsed, the tip deprojected, I think it would be called. So like flattened, and then I just lost some of the function in the midface on the right side.
Like what? Can you show me? Okay.
So to pucker on the right side, there's asymmetry. So it's very like. This is not Bell's palsy, because the trunk of the nerve is not affected. So and it's in the midface. And the midface is notoriously hard to see to begin with, because it's not especially if you lose both sides too, which I did. It wasn't just the right side; both sides had a change.
Okay. So that's the motor dysfunction. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then TMJ complex dysfunction. That's just clenching.
Yeah, that's just clenching, and there was some evidence.
That's way back in 2013.
Exactly, and there was evidence of some degeneration, or some absorption of the condyles.
Okay, and then the impaired sleep. You had a sleep study. You had some mild sleep apnea. Okay. All right. That makes so much more sense now.
Yeah. It's like, as soon as you can see it now you're getting the picture. It's exhausting to tell people. I'm telling you.
Right. Okay. Let me make sure I'm not missing anything here. Okay, so for the big picture, like you're taking a look at the big picture here, it seems like 2013 is when you had some first change to your nervous system, because you had Addis pupil, which is chronic virus or autoimmunity damaging autonomic fibers.
And that's why I started noticing the coldness of the hands and the feet. Yeah.
So again, you have autonomic fibers throughout your body. They saw it in your eyes, expression of it, the Addis pupil, and they go, oh, it's benign, it's not a tumor. Yeah. It really is injury to autonomic nerve fibers.
Right.
Okay. And then just some headaches then. Then once you had your chemical insult,
which
probably from whatever was in the antibiotic, like take antibiotics, that seemed to like really flare things up and mess you up.
Yes.
And that's when you had like your sensory triggers for your migraines, right? And the migraines are very specific to like balance issues, nausea, vertigo, slurred speech, light sensitivity. Yeah. And then that can last a few hours. Then you have basically hungover throughout the rest of the day. And you also get that ophthalmic artery where you get the bloodshot eyes only in the right eye. Okay, and then pain with that, and lentosis.
Yeah, like pressure behind the eye.
Okay. And then that goes away by itself by the next day, usually?
Or even like later on in that evening,
Okay, and that goes on.
Yeah.
Okay.
What do you do with these symptoms? You just ride them out. You just like, you know that they're going to end.
Yeah.
Or you'd hope.
Well, we're going to see if we can find some things to do. Okay. Now, there's some things that you also put in here that I want to clarify here. Let me get your document down.
So you know some good dentists in California? Do you know how hard it is?
I don't know any good dentists.
There is.
I do know some good dentists, but
it's really hard.
They're not here.
It's really hard.
Okay, so you put... Okay, you take CBD? That does help you?
Yeah.
A list of things that help you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I forgot to mention CBD. Yeah.
What does that do for you? Just takes
the edge off. Yeah. I noticed it specifically with the pain, like the centralized pain. Okay. Definitely takes the edge off. And instantly.
Okay. You're sensitive to medication, but are you sensitive to supplements too?
Some, yeah.
What, like...
Gastrointestinal problems is what I've noticed mostly with some supplements.
Okay. Any specific type?
You know, I don't really remember. I remember when I got home from Peru and I saw a naturopath and she had me on, like, you know, the gauntlet of, like, everything. And I was like, this is crap. I'm not doing this anymore. And I just removed everything because I was getting sick from them.
Okay.
I noticed that quality really does make a huge difference. I'm very picky. I trust, like, Pure Encapsulation. I find majority of what I've taken from them to be good.
Yeah, they're good.
Yeah.
You should definitely use your professional line of nutrition, like manufactured in the U.S. with GMP standards, toxicology tests. Yeah, yeah, they're all really important. I know some people they don't understand that.
No.
Okay, so look at your brain region localization form. I mean, it's basically the cerebellum symptoms are the key things. Autonomic function symptoms. You wrote down you experience sudden involuntary muscle contraction or jerks in the individual parts of your limbs on that form.
Did I put?
Is that an accident?
That might have been an accident.
Okay.
I think the involuntary muscle contractions I was probably thinking jaw.
Okay.
Like clenching.
Okay. So if you kind of look at the quality of your function here, it's basically an endurance issue.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's like receptor endurance, then if you get past it, you fall apart. And then you have some energy, and then it just depletes throughout the day.
Yes.
That's all mitochondria.
Yes.
But it's specific to mitochondria to the brain.
Yes.
So ultimately, like, we have to think about improving mitochondrial function. So one of them would be like, do you really need oxygen at night, sleep apnea? Do we need to push the mitochondrial pathways, nutraceuticals? But another part of it is you got to activate your brain mitochondria without fatiguing it.
Right.
So you can recover.
Right.
So for example, sometimes when people have migraines that are triggered by scents, we have to rebuild that pathway. So what we do is like have you get essential oils.
Oh, so you like desensitize to the...
Well, you take an oil you can tolerate.
Yeah.
Take a few.
Yeah.
Then now you're activating that olfactory pathway. You're getting nerve projections. You're actually building mitochondria.
Interesting.
Right?
Is that like how does that work? Like...
You activate a neuron. The neuron's going to make mitochondria.
Yeah.
The only way you actually make mitochondria
is activation. Yeah.
So things like flavonoids and quercetin and all these things that, you know, green tea and resveratrol that have been shown to be.
Oh, I do that.
Okay.
Drink my matcha.
Well, those things all turn on the message, but they don't actually make mitochondria.
Got you.
Right? So in order to make it, you have to activate it. Just think of like if you went to a trainer and you said, I have really weak hamstrings. Oh, we have to do hamstring exercises. So it's
which is slightly damaging.
So when you look at the symptoms you have, these are all the pathways into your brain that are fatiguing you. Like, so sense is the olfactory pathway. You may have damaged.
Do you think it could be the chemicals in those scented products? Because there's lots of...
Something injure those neurons, those pathways.
Yeah.
And as you injure those pathways, you don't get as much mitochondria in those pathways.
Gotcha.
Simple rule. Brain fatigue, you get autonomic response.
Gotcha.
Always.
Gotcha.
Part of the brain fatigue. But your autonomic response then triggers migraine. So, like, I want to run some of these things by you and just get your thoughts on it. So, is scent really a serious one for you?
You know, I didn't even really think about that, but we had a tenant move in downstairs, and he was using, like, multiple of those air fresheners, and I was, like, getting sick. I was like, this is terrible. And I notice if I go into, like, a perfume store or something that's like that, it's not terrible, but it's certainly not comfortable.
All right. So, we would never do this first, because we'd have to, like, figure out how to reduce your inflammation, how to make your mitochondria more efficient with that nutraceutical lifestyle first.
Yeah.
But then at some point, you have to get plasticity developed in those areas. Okay, so like with scents, you would do like oils you can tolerate in a far enough distance, right where it pushes you, challenge it, and then stop.
Gotcha.
Do that over and over again, and then you would go to stronger scents that you may not be able to tolerate. So there'll be like probably a day when you first try it, day or two.
Yeah.
You're going to trigger migraine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
And then you kind of make a list, and then you kind of work through it, like less aggressive, and then over time, you start moving to more aggressive.
Okay.
Just like going from 5 pounds to 10 pounds.
Just building up your tolerance. Is this like a hermetic?
It's not building tolerance. It's building neuron mitochondria.
Okay. All right.
It is hormetic because anything that stresses your neurological or muscular pathways is going to build mitochondria because you have to deal with the stressor.
So what's happened is my system's just become like overly sensitive and it's just like reacting to things that
it's not immunological.
No.
This reaction is
no, that's
neurological.
Neurological.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's what's happened. Like the neurological system has just become overly sensitive or overly.
It's the mitochondrial compromise. It's been injured.
All right. So sense it is.
So it's like this. I'll show you. Let's see if I can find this. You've seen the video where the neurons branch above each other?
I don't think so.
So once you have an injured neuron, the healthy neuron branches over the So injured neuron, you activate it. In order for this is being activated by electrical impulses. This is mitochondria growing in it. See those little dots? Then they can make the proteins energy to branch around the injured one.
Crazy.
That's neuroplasticity.
That's crazy.
So every time you smell something
that
doesn't exceed your rate,
you're
making the neurons that can perceive the scent have more mitochondria.
Got you.
Then they can eventually branch over the injured ones.
Got you.
So we have to deal with all your pathways.
Got you. Okay. And I can just use essential oils with that?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Like you get like essential oil kit.
I got some.
Yeah, some of those. Okay.
Yeah.
Some you really can't handle.
You know what? I just don't. As an herbalist, I'd stay the hell away from essential oils. So they sit in a box, and I'm never using you because my teacher always told me not to ever use them because they're endocrine disruptors.
Yeah. Okay. But right now.
That's looking into volatile oils. Yeah.
Or another. Okay, so sense, and then bright sun. That's going to be really tough to rebuild.
And that's not every day. That's just like some days like the glare from the sun.
Yeah, you have a celiac ganglion injury. That's going to be really hard. Okay. We'll see what we do, but we'll have to go that way. Lack of sleep, that's going to be different. Okay. This will be at some point. We might do know we have areas of the brain you've injured. We won't know what those are until we do a physical exam. Okay. The basic rule is whatever you can't do is what you have to do.
Just to make my life uncomfortable.
No, because whatever you can't do is the area that's injured. So if you keep activating it.
To grow the new
So if you can't walk in a straight line, you're going to start walking in a straight line.
Okay.
If you can't keep your balance with your eyes closed, you're going to have to
start doing it.
Yeah. And some of those I
forgot to tell you, I did visual therapy, like functional visual therapy when I got home to try it because my eyes weren't tracking. But after a few months, she's like, just give it a few months because it's quite expensive to constantly do it. And in 2 months of continually working with her, my eyes didn't change an iota as far as the tracking. And she said, there's just
so you could have no ability to recover right now. Like you could have such mitochondrial.
Well, what I'm saying is that if that happened in 2017 and then I got retested for the vestibular stuff in 2023 and I'm seeing upbeat nystagmus and conversion spasms and all that craziness, I don't think it's going anywhere, but I think that we can make some sort of to make my life a bit better.
I think.
Okay, tell me. Give me some hope.
I think it takes a highly skilled person to find out the pathways, and not everyone is good at it.
Yes.
Okay. But there's a possibility you may not respond, but they're not there yet.
No, I want to keep hopeful.
Yeah. Okay, let's go through your average day.
Okay.
About your diet.
My diet.
Walk through your day with me. What time do you wake up? What are you eating?
Oh, this is bad. This is really bad. Okay, so I wake up around noon.
Okay.
Because I go to bed around 5 in the morning.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
No problem.
It's bad.
I don't mind that.
It's bad. It's terrible. I wake up around noon, and I'm typically not a morning eater. Okay. I don't like to eat in the morning. I'm not hungry, so I have to force myself if I eat in the morning. But I'd love to have a cappuccino with raw goat milk. That's my morning, and I take my glutathione.
What is it? Goat what?
Goat milk.
Goat milk. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So cappuccino with goat milk.
Yeah.
And that's what time?
Usually around noon.
So right when you wake up?
Yeah, right when I wake up.
First 15, 20 minutes?
Yeah, first 15, 20 minutes.
Okay. All right.
I'm well addicted.
Okay, so then what's next?
Next, what do I do? Check my emails.
Okay, as far as food goes, yeah.
Yeah, as far as food goes, then I maybe...
Go ahead, tell me actually. Check your emails.
Yeah, check my emails, just do the daily... check up on things. And then I, maybe an hour later, I'll have a matcha tea with some banana bread or eggs or whatever.
Banana bread, is it gluten or not?
Yeah, no, I use
free?
like buckwheat, or it's always gluten free.
So you're always gluten free?
Yeah.
Okay.
90% of the time. 99% of the time. Except when I'm traveling to Europe.
Okay, so just when you're out of the
yeah,
country.
like if I'm if I'm out somewhere that I feel it's the gluten is tolerable.
Sure. But in the US, Canada, I should say, nothing. Okay. No. So matcha tea with banana bread or
banana
eggs?
bread or eggs or some chocolate or like all three. Whatever, I kind of go by, am I hungry, am I not hungry?
Is it dark chocolate, milk chocolate?
Dark chocolate.
Dark chocolate, okay.
Yeah. No milk chocolate.
So you're dairy free for them?
I'm not dairy free. I
actually
get raw milk from a farmer, so I consume quite a bit of raw milk, and I make kefir and my own yogurt and everything.
How long have you been doing that?
Years.
Have you ever stopped?
No. Do you want me to?
We have to experiment sometimes.
Yeah.
We don't have like lifetime plans for anything.
Yeah.
We're kind of at the
I can experiment without milk. I used to get just raw milk from him, and I switched to goat milk because I thought it might be better.
So like, just to understand, like working with chronic patterns like yours.
Yes.
There's always this trial and error with various things.
Eggs are a trigger, unfortunately.
Oh, eggs are a trigger.
Eggs are a trigger.
Why are you having eggs at 1 o'clock?
Because I did the Cyrex test for the food sensitivity, and it came back okay. And so I was like, all right, I can eat eggs. No, okay. Eggs are a trigger. Yes, they are. Okay,
I mean, the gold standard is elimination, provocation, because labs aren't going to catch everything.
No. Eggs are, I've never noticed any reaction from milk, ever. And maybe that's my hair.
But you've never stopped drinking milk.
I never stopped, maybe for a day or two when I travel.
Not...
Okay,
milk is so neuroinflammatory.
Yeah, it's true.
And you said you have quite a bit.
Quite a bit.
Well, that's like a serious red flag.
It's like I have quite a bit.
And you're like, you've been chronically not responding for a while.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just love milk. It's terrible. It's such a bulk of my diet. Okay.
Okay. Well, again, we're not saying...
So, I think you're right, though. I think I need to... I was going to do...
You got to do some experimentation.
Yes.
You got to get out of, like, whatever pattern you're in right now is not allowing you to recover.
Not good. Okay. What do you think of the autoimmune paleo diet to try just to kind of remove everything?
We can talk. We'll figure out like a place to start. Okay. To kind of go over this bit. Okay. So that's 1 o'clock.
Yes.
What's after 1?
After
is there any
1?
Protein in here?
Yeah. If I don't have eggs, then in the banana bread there is. I use like the Himalayan buckwheat flour, and then there's like eggs and butter and all that. And then I don't usually eat until supper around 9.
9 o'clock.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, 8 or 9. Sometimes I'll have a snack in between, maybe some seaweed or something.
What seaweed, like chips or like
like kelp.
Seaweed or
bull kelp or some mackerel kelp or something.
Okay, so seaweed, just a seaweed snack.
Yeah, seaweed snack. And then I eat around 9 o'clock.
What do you have?
I usually chicken thighs with vegetables, potatoes, or like just some sort of protein, lots of vegetables, and maybe a little bit of sweet potato or yam. Or
how many chicken thighs do you have?
1.
1. Okay.
And
okay, go ahead.
Or steak.
How many ounces?
Usually get a 7-ounce split it with my partner, so 3 ounces.
3 ounces.
Yeah.
Okay. 3 ounce steak or chicken. Okay. And then after 9?
Popcorn.
Okay. Anything else?
Cooked in coconut milk. Or coconut oil with tons and tons of butter. Because I love butter.
Okay. So that's
about it.
Okay. And that's your day?
That's my day.
Okay.
That's it.
You say you drink quite a bit of milk. Where's the milk?
So the milk, I mean, because I'm making kefir and I'm making yogurt as well, right? So there's a lot of dairy in my diet.
So when are you eating those, though?
So this is like, say, another day for lunch, I might have like a cup of kefir and some blueberries.
Okay.
Yeah. Or a cup of yogurt and some blueberries or something.
Okay.
And that's it.
Just raw milk.
Raw milk.
That's the only time you have to have milk?
Yes.
Okay. So what's your weight right now?
I have no idea. I think I don't weigh myself, but I think maybe 100 pounds.
Let's just say it's 100 pounds. We'll check.
I haven't really fluctuated my entire life, so.
So you're definitely protein deficient. Let's say 3 ounces of steak. Like you're not going to be able to recover from anything.
I need more protein.
Yeah.
Okay.
You want to take any kind of recovery, muscle injury, nerve injury, brain injury. If you don't have protein, 0 chance to recover.
Okay.
like neuroplasticity.
Yes.
That requires like normal protein.
Okay.
So let's see. How much protein? Let's do a rough count. How much protein in 3 ounce steak? So you should have 1 gram of protein for every pound of body weight.
Okay.
So like 1 chicken thigh or 1 steak, let's say that's about 20 grams.
Yes.
And then you have an egg?
Yes.
How many eggs?
A couple eggs.
2 eggs. So that's about 20 grams. Wait, egg, please. Let's double check.
Maybe that will give me more energy too.
Well, you're also reacting to them. It's only 6 grams. So let's say that's another 10 grams. So you're at 30 grams.
Okay.
And let's say we get another 10 from the random.
Yeah, random thing. Still not
A little bit of egg in your coconut bread or banana bread or something.
Yeah, not
so
enough.
let's say you're at 40 grams. Let's even say you're at 50 grams. So you're 50% of your body's protein intake. No protein, no recovery.
Got you.
No oxygen, no mitochondria.
Got you. Got you. Those are very easy to implement.
Okay. So typically when people haven't been eating their like ideal protein intake,
Mm-hmm.
and when I say ideal protein intake for you, because 1 gram protein would be like for someone who's active or someone who needs recovery or
Mm-hmm.
you know they need at least 1 gram
Yes.
per pound body weight.
And I wasn't eating much protein because I'm not very active.
So
I don't work out.
you're gonna have to kind of work into eating these into your diet.
Okay.
Like you might actually have to put an effort into.
Okay.
I need to have another 3 ounce serving of
Oh, I love meat.
chicken. Or
You could I'll just pile on more meat.
let's get you 100. Let's
Great.
get you 100 grams of protein a day.
Done.
Well, let's double check your weight.
Okay.
But let's just say that's probably your accurate number.
Okay.
So we need to get you okay. Okay. We gotta get you off the dairy.
All right. It's okay. It's all right.
Not forever, but
I can do it. I can do it.
yeah, of course.
Yeah.
You're doing it a lot of days, anyways, right?
Yeah, I mean, some days I just have the little bit of goat milk in my coffee, so it's not like.
Okay, so you brought up autoimmune paleo. Do you want to go autoimmune paleo?
Yeah, I think autoimmune paleo is reasonable to.
You want to try it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because that would take care of the milk.
Yes. Yeah, and just kind of remove everything.
Okay, so a trial. There's a possibility you do have this underlying autoimmunity, like we talked about, where you can damage your ciliary nerve and your phospholipid antibodies are slightly showing up. And
yes.
You could have autoimmunity to tissue proteins that aren't clear yet.
Right. Because that's RX-RA5. It's not testing everything, right? It's like
no.
Yeah.
Child diet autoimmune paleo. Okay.
I was going to do that anyway for my hair loss because the scalp symptoms to me.
Well, phospholipid antibodies are associated with hair loss.
Interesting.
Yeah, because your hair follicles all phospholipids.
Yeah, I guess.
Your brain, your skin, and
yeah. That
neurons.
makes sense. That totally makes sense. And well, there's also other scalp symptoms of as far as the redness and inflammation and whatnot.
That might be part of the
phospholipid. Part of it, yeah.
Okay. So we got those. Let's make sure I'm missing anything else. We went through your average day with what you eat. Okay.
There's another diagnosis I have that I didn't put in there because I'm not.
What is it?
Hypermobile EDS. Look, I didn't put it in there because I don't know. I don't even know if I believe.
What is
it? EDS, Ehlers-Danlos syndrome.
Oh no, yeah.
I don't believe that.
There's no way.
So well, yeah. It was actually an oral surgeon that thought I had that from my soft palate being elongated and the fact that I'm hypermobile in all my joints. But I'm like, it's such a vague. I met with a geneticist and he's like, yeah, you definitely have it. Look, your Baton score. And I was like, and I didn't put it in there because honestly, I think it's a fad diagnosis and I'm pretty sure he just gives that to everybody because they ask.
And honestly, it wouldn't matter.
And it doesn't matter. Yeah, what does it mean?
Okay. All right, so we're going to do some blood work on you too. Updated blood test.
Okay.
So we'll do a routine. How deep do you want to go with your thyroid? Just a routine thyroid?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that's all I need, some routine lab work. Just make sure you're not anemic anymore. Make sure your vitamin D levels from back then are back to normal.
And the Cyrex, the food allergy testing was really boring. It was
nothing that significant.
Super.
So the other thing we have to do with your diet is your blood sugar is dropping.
Okay.
So you do have symptoms of your on the questionnaire forms if you're left. Energy levels drop in the afternoon. Eating large meals is difficult, right? Those are typically with blood sugar levels being off. Do you feel better after you eat? Energized?
Maybe slightly, yeah. Especially a high protein meal.
There you go.
Yeah.
So in between like noon, okay, so 1's good. Between 1 and 9, let's get you some pure protein things.
Okay.
Like a chicken breast or some 3-ounce steak.
Perfect.
So you need like 2 sources of protein, 2 protein snacks between 1 and 9.
Okay.
Even if you're not hungry.
Okay. Protein's very. It's like I'm always hungry for like a little bit of steak. that can go down.
There's a protein snack at, let's say between 1 and 9. What time? 3, 4.
Yeah, 3, 4.
3 o'clock to 4 o'clock, and maybe like around 6 to 7 or 5 to 7 or something. Anyway, you need 2.
Okay.
At the beginning, you won't be hungry.
Okay.
And actually, if your system gets used to it, you'll be like, oh, I really need my snack.
Right.
So you have more stable energy because you're also crashing by the end of the day, physically and mentally.
Yeah.
Right. You just might.
Well, what's weird is I get energy at night.
Right. That's your, like your epinephrine.
Yeah, like.
But you notice, like half the thing you're doing in the morning is just loading up with caffeine.
It's true. It's true.
Your cappuccino.
I know.
You're having your matcha.
Yeah, it's true.
And like you're all like caffeine out until 9, and then you're like
because I have to make it through the day.
And you have like a 3-ounce piece of meat and then some popcorn. Like, that's not gonna. This is not a diet for recovery.
Okay. All right. More protein.
Okay. Right. I think I have everything I was really unclear about. Is there anything you think we should cover that we missed?
I think we covered everything, to be quite honest.
Great. Let's take a little break and I'll do anything.
Cool.
Okay.